All right, it is 7 o'clock. It is time for us to get started. Thank you guys for letting me have a Sunday off. We very much enjoyed family dinner, and I appreciate you. But we are back to it live. One of these days, I'm going to have somebody help me do this all the time, and that way you won't ever have to miss out on a live session. But I think it really was it you that asked me the question online about assumption and assuming. Is that what you, was that you that asked me that? I'd have to pull it up. I think so. No, somebody. Well, when somebody gets this, I know somebody asked me a question about assumptions and something, and whoever it is, when you're ready to ask me, just throw it in the chat and I will get into that. So let's do a number 52. Here we go. Oh, and thank you. Thank you for enjoying my good time. It was. Family is great. I love them. All right. An appraiser, oopsie, is valuing a three-bedroom, two-bath home using the sales comparison approach. Comparable sale A is a four-bedroom, two-bath home that sold for 310,000. Comparable or comparable B is a three-bedroom, one-bath that sold for 285,000. In this market, a bedroom adjustment is 12,000 and a bathroom adjustment is 8,500. After adjustments, what are the adjusted sales prices of A and B? All right, so we know that we have our subject property. Oh, helps if I can write. Boom. There we go. We got our subject property, and it is a three-bedroom, two-bath home. And then we have comp A, which is a four-bedroom and a two-bath. And you got comp B, which is a three-bedroom, one bath. So what we're trying to do, hey Caroline, I know math, I know. I hope the math was helpful for you guys last week since I wasn't here on Sunday. I hope that math helps. That way you all can go in and review. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, if comp A sold for 310,000 with these features, what would it have sold for if it had the subject features? And we know comp B sold for 285. Right? Ran out of space there, but that's okay. So we have to look here. Our subject has three bedrooms. Our comp has four bedrooms. We would say our comp, we're always talking about the comp. How does the comp compare to the subject? And right now, our comp is either going to be better or it's going to be inferior. Because you all know I like to teach CBS and CIA. If the comp is inferior, you add, and if the comp is better, you subtract. So we know in this case, our comp A, when it comes to bedrooms, it's better. So we're saying if comp A sold for 310,000 and it had one less bedroom, what would have sold for? Well, if a bedroom is worth 12,000, we know it would sell for 12,000 less. It wouldn't have sold for 310, it would have sold for what, 298, something like that. And we can look at the bedrooms for comp B. Well, the subject has three bedrooms, the comp has three bedrooms, so there's no change. We don't need to change anything. Well, okay, let's look at our bathrooms. The subject has two baths. Our comp A has two baths. We don't need to change anything. Our subject has two baths. Our comp B has one bath. So we think if it's sold for 285, it only makes sense that it would sell for more money if it had an additional bathroom. It is better. So we're going to increase it by, the bathroom adjustment is 8,500. Sorry, that's not very neat. So what we're saying is, hey, If comp A had sold with an additional bedroom, I'm sorry, with one less bedroom, it would have sold for 298,000. Now, just knowing that, I can get rid of these two, right? I know that's going to be one of the answers. It's either B or D. Comp B, it sold for 285, but it didn't have the same amount of bathrooms. So it would have sold for more if it had an additional bathroom. So we're going to take that 285 and we're going to add 8,500 to it. So, okay, I feel like I should be able to do that math in my head, but it's 7 o'clock and I've been making videos. Let's see. 285,000 plus 8,500. That gives me 293, 500. So what we're saying is that A would have sold for 298 and B would have sold for 293.5 if it had had these features, meaning our answer is it is B. Hey, the answer is B. Hey, Marilla. Yep, you got that answer B. I see you. The answer's B. Hey, the answer's B. Now, I don't think they're here today, but just so y'all know, I had two more people pass this last, just Monday and Tuesday. I went past, no, Monday and Wednesday. Yes, Monday and Wednesday. Two of my students that are in my classes, they passed. I'm so proud of them. It's a lot of work, but it does work. I love it. It's a lot of work, but if you put the effort in, it will happen. And I know it's a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot. And one person, they took the class once, another person had to take the class twice. Both of them felt really prepared, but guys, they had different lives. So sometimes it just takes more time. Sometimes it just takes more, vision and doing and more time to just get all the stuff in. So I have faith in all y'all. All right. Unless somebody has a question, let's move on to 53. And of course, if you have a question, please ask. A commercial lease contains a use clause restricting the tenant to operating a bookstore. The tenant begins selling coffee and pastries alongside books. The landlord objects. Which statement is most accurate? All right, well, our vocab in here is put that in green, our use clause. And it tells you what it is. It's restricting the tenant to operating a bookstore. So you signed a lease. This tenant signed a lease and said, hey, I'm just going to operate a bookstore. Now, I don't do a lot with commercial, but I'm guessing that you can only have a bookstore. I mean, if they're selling coffee and pastries, this seems to me that's more like a cafe and you're probably doing something wrong. But let's take a look at what our options are here. A, use clauses are generally unenforceable in commercial leases. Well, nope, that's not true. You can have a use clause. B, the landlord waived the right to object by not protesting immediately. No, it's in the lease. I mean, if it'd been going on for 20 years, that's probably one thing. The tenant can use the space for any legal purpose since they're paying rent. Absolutely not. And D, we know this has to be the answer, but let's read it. The tenant is likely in violation of the use clause, and the landlord may have grounds to pursue legal remedies, including lease termination. Yes, I like that. And I know that Miss Caroline got that right. Miss Stacy got that right. I love it for you. All right, good. Moving on. A landlord shows a vacant apartment to two prospective tenants on the same day. Tenant A is a single mother with two children, and tenant B is a single professional with no children. Both have identical credit scores, income levels, and rental histories. The landlord selects tenant B, stating the apartment is better suited for a single person. This decision most likely violates, well, A, it's just not nice. But B, okay, let's look at our actual answer choices. A, no law, as the landlord has the right to choose any qualified tenant. Absolutely not. No, you can't. We know this is talking about familial status, and you can't tell somebody something would be better off with no, a single person. The Fair Housing Act's prohibition against familial status discrimination. Okay. The local fair housing codes, but not federal law. No federal laws, that's going to be a problem. And 54, the Fair Housing Act, only if the property has 4 or more units. Well, I think that one is tempting, but I don't think D is correct. And let's talk about why. We know, and I think for this, it will be easiest to show you all the slides on this. And can I do a search? Let's do fair housing. Let's do a search on fair housing here. I can just write it. There we go. I needed to get to that chapter. Nope. Fair housing. Here we go. So we know in the Federal Fair Housing Act, sorry guys, we gotta flip through, find these. Here we go. The exemptions to the Federal Fair Housing Act. We've got these exemptions. And I know that this question talks about, oh, if there's 4 or more units. I have an awesome note system. Thank you. If there's, well, let's just say this. We know we have these exemptions. And one of these exemptions, if somebody is an owner occupant of an apartment building with less than 5 units. So if it's 4 or less, right? If it's 1 unit, or I should say 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, then if you live there, if you're actually living in the unit, you have the ability to say, you know what? I get to choose who I'm living with. But you have to be an owner occupant because we know by definition, residential is going to be 1 to 4 units. And think of a unit as a front door. How many front doors does it have? All right. 1 to 4 units. And we know commercial is going to be 5 or more. And it doesn't really matter if it's residential or commercial. You could be a landlord with a duplex, or you could be an owner of an apartment building with 500 units. If people are living there, you have to follow the fair housing laws. So we know that option doesn't work because, and let's go back to it here, because it just says the landlord showed a vacant apartment. It doesn't say anything about that landlord living there. So the 4 or more bedrooms has nothing to do with it. They discriminated based on familial status. And that is the problem. So that means our answer is B, because they violated on familial status. There we go. Hopefully that makes sense. But guys, I will tell you, you really, really, really need to know these exemptions. I'm not going to say you don't have state exemptions, but you need to know these exemptions for your exam and just for everyday life. You need to know it for everyday life so you don't get in trouble. Right? All right, let's move on to our next one. 55. Oof, we got math. I did ask for it to put math in here. So a commercial property has a GRM, a gross rent multiplier, of 8.5 and monthly gross rental income of 12,500. Using the GRM approach, what is the estimated property value? Okay, well, we know gross rent multiplier. That means we're going to take the gross rent, which is 12,500, and then we need to multiply it by the multiplier. Now, I will say this. This is a big thing. Your state, your individual state will treat these things very differently. There is the GRM, and then there's something called a GIM, and that stands for gross. Okay, that's a G, and that's terrible. Gross income multiplier. Depending on the state you are in, they will say, some states will say, hey, the gross rent multiplier is monthly and the gross income multiplier is annual or yearly. Other states will say, hey, the gross rent multiplier is annual, but the gross income multiplier is also annual, but involves some expenses. Now, this one did not tell us which way to go. And so I'm going to do it annually for right now, and we'll see what happens. So let's go with the gross rent multiplier. Let's make it annual. I'll do it for annual and monthly, but either way, guys, it's going to be pretty similar. If we do it just the, I'm going to do it this way. If we do it in the black, like just this way, it would be 12,500 times 8.5, and that would give you an answer of, did I do that right? 12,500. Helps if I type it right. 12,500 times 8.5. That gives me 106,250. If you're going with the annual way, it would be the 12,500 times 12. And then that would give you I think that would give you like 1,500,000. Make sure I did that. 12,500 times 12 gives us 150,000. And then I would do that times 8.5. And that would give me 1,275,000. And it looks like both of these answers are here. This one's a hard one. And what I would have to tell you is go to your textbook for your state and you figure out what your state wants you to do. It could go either way. And this particular thing created by AI, what number is this? 55? They told me the answer is C. If I got this question on the test, I would probably have said D like you all did. It just makes more sense to me. But I know as I've done searches, different states do different ways, different textbooks do different ways. I just always like to show you all both of them. I wish I could tell you a definitive answer, but there you go. All right, next. 56. A buyer pays $12,000 in discount points at closing on a loan used to purchase their primary residence. For federal tax and federal income tax purposes, the discount points are most likely, is it A, deductible only over the life of the loan, regardless of purpose? B, deductible only if the buyer is self-employed? C, not deductible under any circumstances? Or D, fully deductible in the year paid if the loan is for the purchase of a primary residence, which it is, and certain IRS requirements are met. We didn't give us any requirements, but I'm feeling pretty good about our answer being, oh, 50, has anybody guessed this for 56 yet? I don't know, but I'm going to go with D, right? Because we know discount points, we know they reduce your interest. They reduce your interest rate. And we know, according to federal income tax laws, when you own your house, the taxes, the taxes you pay are deductible, but so is the interest on your mortgage. And these are just, this is interest. You pay discount points at closing to reduce your interest rate. That's money going towards interest, which means you can write it off, which means our answer, yes, is D. Good job. Look at y'all getting these right. I see y'all. All right, 57. A real estate developer wants to build a gas station on a lot zoned for residential use. The developer applies for a variance. To be granted a variance, the developer must typically demonstrate what? So our key word here is variance. We've got to know the definition of a variance. And I happen to know that a variance means, hey, zoning board, your rule, your zoning rule, this ordinance, it is causing me a hardship. It is causing me a hardship. And because this hardship is so extreme, you should give me permission to do something different. Now, I think when decide to buy my next house, that if I can't put in a hot tub or an in-ground pool because there's a zoning ordinance, um, that's a hardship. But I'm probably the only one that thinks my lack of having an, in-ground pool is a hardship. It should be heated too, just saying. So something like that wouldn't count. But if it's something that, we're a reasonable person in a reasonable situation, this is something where, yes, that rule is causing extreme difficulty or hardship, then usually they'll grant that. So knowing that's the definition of a variance, let's see. So they want to build a gas station on a lot zoned for residential. Oof. They'll have to demonstrate that the proposed use will generate more tax revenue than current zoning allows. No, I mean, that's good for the city, but that's not what a variance is about. B, that a majority of the neighboring property owners approve the proposed use. No. C, an undue hardship. Oh, we got that hardship word related to the specific property that prevents reasonable use under current zoning, and that the variance will not substantially alter the neighborhood character. That sounds good. And D, that the property has been vacant for at least 5 years. No. Now, I don't know why gas station, wanting to put up a gas station in a residential area. I mean, it doesn't say that it passed. They would try to demonstrate it, but I'm guessing they probably wouldn't win this. So we know our answer is C because we know our vocab word of variance. Nice guy. Y'all are getting these right. These were the advanced questions. Not that I want you to get them wrong, but these were the advanced questions. I see y'all. 58. A seller signs a listing agreement, but fails to disclose that the property has a buried oil tank, otherwise known as a UST, underground storage tank, that has a buried oil tank that the seller discovered during a renovation. The buyer's home inspection does not reveal the tank. After closing, the tank is discovered leaking, contaminating soil and groundwater. Under CERCLA liability principles, who may be held responsible for cleanup costs? All right. So our question becomes, what do you know about CERCLA? It stands for, let's see if I can get this right. I can't even think of the first letter. What does C stand for? C stands for cookie. C is for cookie. That's good enough for me. But I don't think that's what it is in this case. It is comprehensive. Comprehensive environment. Okay, you know what? Let's just stop lying to myself. It is not going to pop in my head right now. I can feel it. So let's just put in here CERCLA. Here we go. Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation and Liability Act. Right. So this is the act, and you see it here. And guys, here I want to make sure, I know you all have been doing this with me for a while, but this is a different way to study your questions. See how I'm kind of answering the question first in my head and, looking it up and then answering? That's one way to study. Sometimes just saying, oh, let me see what I know and what I don't know, and then answering can help get this stuff just stuck in your head. So CERCLA basically says, hey, these sites that have been contaminated, this is a problem. And they created a trust fund so that there be money to help clean these places up because they can't stay that way. And then we know the Superfund amendments made that trust fund even bigger. But at the end of the day, what CERCLA says is, look, if you are a current owner or operator, if you're a past owner or operator, if you arrange for the disposal, whether you're the generator or the person that arranged for the disposal, if you transported the waste, you're all responsible. Everybody who is connected to this property is responsible. That's what CERCLA says. And then if all those people together don't have enough money, now the trust monies come in. So we know what CERCLA is. Let's go back to our questions. So who may be held responsible for cleanup cost? A, only the buyer as the current property owner. Nope. B, neither party. The EPA bears all cleanup costs for residential. Absolutely not. The EPA wants to pay last. C, both the buyer as the current owner and the seller as a prior owner who knew of the contamination, among other potentially responsible parties. Yeah, I like this one. But let's eliminate D, only the seller as the party who failed to disclose. Not in this case. CERCLA says everybody's going down. So yes, very good, ladies. Our answer is C. And maybe there's a guy out there watching. When I say ladies, it's kind of like when you say you guys. I mean men and women, ladies, I mean everybody. All right. Hopefully that was a good review of CERCLA. If there's only going to be one environmental national act you need to know, I need it to be CERCLA. You should be familiar with it. Okay. 59. Oh, more math. How did we do this? All right. A real estate transaction involves a property with an existing $180,000 assumable mortgage at 4.5% interest. The sales price is $310,000 and the seller agrees to carry a second mortgage at $50,000 at 6% interest. How much cash must the buyer bring to closing, not including closing costs? Not including closing costs. All right. This one is a little convoluted, but I got you. Because what we have to first understand is, okay, this buyer, they need to buy this house. They need, like, for money wise, they need $310,000. That's what the seller wants. I mean, that's what they're going to need. Now, in any case, I don't care who it is. If a seller's buying a house and the contract says the purchase price is 310, buyer, you can rob a bank for all the seller cares. You need to have your $310,000 there. Now, if you don't have $310,000 in the bank, you can easily draw out. I mean, doesn't everybody? But if you don't have that money, what you can do is take out a loan. And you might get a loan and have to put some money down. Maybe you're getting a VA loan, you're getting 100% LTV. Maybe you're assuming a loan. I mean, we need to figure out, okay, buyer, how much money needs to be coming out of your bank account in order to purchase? Well, the other thing we have here is an assumable loan, which means the buyer is taking over the seller's mortgage. When that seller bought the house, the bank showed up and handed them a loan, some money for a loan, and that's why the seller pays monthly. Now the seller needs to figuratively give that money to the buyer. So the seller of this $310,000, that's the sales price, the seller is going to give, they're going to, transfer that borrowed mortgage money over. So 180,000 of this is the seller's assumed mortgage. So yeah, buyer, you want to buy this house from the seller for 310, but you're going to assume their mortgage for 180. So 310 subtract 180, that gives us $130,000. That still needs to be accounted for. So buyer, where's this $130,000 coming from? Well, the other thing this question said is there's a second mortgage which the seller is agreeing to carry. That is a fancy way of saying the seller is going to finance. They're going to let this buyer borrow $50,000 from them. So not only is the seller giving this assumed mortgage credit towards the house for the buyer, the seller is also giving them $50,000 in a personal loan, right, from seller to buyer, which we call a purchase money mortgage. So that's going to leave us with what? 80,000? We still have $80,000 that needs to be accounted for so this buyer can actually buy the house, right? And if we look here, that's one of our answer choices because the buyer doesn't have to bring the sales price, they're getting the assumed mortgage. And we know they don't have to bring the 130 because they're getting the second mortgage. So, yeah, our answer is $80,000. Final answer. Great use of vocab. This was a good one. Great use of vocab. Nice. Okay. Number 60. A property tax is, I guess, $9,600 annually. The property sells on April 15th, seller responsible through the day of closing, and the taxes are paid in advance for the calendar year. Using a 360-day, 30-day months, what adjustment needs to appear on the settlement statement? So, we like to draw these out. Right? If you already know how to do this, go ahead and complete this ahead of me and see if your answer matches. So let's say this is for the year 2026. The property taxes are $9,600 and the seller paid. The seller paid in advance. So the seller paid for the entire year. This is going to be 1/1. This is going to be 12/30 because remember they said a 360-day year, which means 30 days in each 12 months. And we know we have a closing of April 15th. So that means the seller owned the house from April 1st to April 15th, but the buyer owns the house the 16th through December 30th. This buyer owns the house from 4/16, because remember, it says the seller is responsible for the day of closing, which means the day after closing is when the buyer needs to start paying for stuff. 4/16 to 12/30. Well, we know we have December, November, October, September, July. Oh, I forgot one. August, July, June, and May, right? Because we know January, February, March, all those 3 months were the seller. And then April gets split. April, the buyer has from the 16th on, plus each of these months as 30 days. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that right? 8 months. Yep. We got 8 months of 30 days. 240 days. Plus we have the remaining April, which will be 15 days. Because remember, we have to count the 16th. So that gives us a total of, what is that, 255 days? 255 days. Which we know is the majority of the year. If a year only has 360 days and this buyer has 255, sounds like the buyer owes the seller a lot of money. You said, how did I know? Because it's the opposite side. Rosalinda, are you talking about this problem or the other problem? I just want to make sure. You can
This
unmute.
problem.
Okay, so how did I know that it was for the yellow side?
Yes, I think that it always confuses me of where to put the money sign to
Okay.
count the months for the
No,
opposite side. Does that make
you,
sense what I'm saying?
yes, it does. And
Okay.
you are not alone on that. So I'm going to blow this drawing up someplace else. Oh, look, that was my message from last week. Delete. So you're with me when I say this is a timeline, right? And let's say it's 2026.
Yes.
And this will be 1/1. This will be 12/30. This would be the world's worst pen. Mm, Pencil. Let's go with this. Right. And we know we had a closing of 4:15. So I'm the seller. And Rosalinda, you are the buyer. All right. I'll call you RL just for short. If I'm the seller and you're the buyer, would you agree that I own this house from here to here?
Yes.
Okay. So then who owns the house 4:16 to 12:30?
I would.
Okay, there you go. So I'm going to change the situation a little bit. Let's pretend, we'll play pretend here, that you get a notice in the mail on September 1st. And it says, Dear Rosalinda, you owe us, what was the total amount? You owe us, I think it was $9,600. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. $9,600 for the entire year. Are you personally okay paying that whole $9,600 when you get the bill on 9/1?
No, because I just got the bill. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's for the whole year. Did you own the house the entire year?
No, I did not.
So what do you think is fair?
That I pay from 9/1 and to the end of the year.
Well, this bill covers the entire year.
Oh, from the date that I purchased the home to the
There
end
you
of the
go.
year.
So if this is the closing, I probably should have said this, and this is the bill, this is the tax bill, you would agree that you should only have to pay from here to here.
Correct.
That should be the buyer. I'm going to change colors, but close enough. Which means at closing, you would want me to pay from here to here, right? Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Great. So if you were buying the house and I had not paid any of the bill for 2026, then you would want me to pay you for this section right here so that when the bill came on 9/1, you could pay the whole bill.
Correct.
Okay. If you understand that, then you understand the problem because the problem they gave us was just a little bit different. In this problem, I paid for the whole year. And the problem they gave us, you didn't get a bill. You didn't get a bill at all. And the problem this that we got, there was no tax bill that you're going to get for any of 2026. You know why? Because I paid it. I paid that bill in full. Does that seem fair?
Yes, I understand. Thank you. I
Right? So
yeah.
when we look at it that way, what we're saying is, in this case, since the seller paid for the whole year, the buyer should reimburse them for these dates right through here. You good now?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Perfect. No problem. Look, I promise you, you are not the only person that needs to see that. I promise you. So, what we have is 255 days. And now we need a daily amount. If it's 9,600, that's an 8. $9,600 a year, I could divide by 360 to get a daily amount. So that's going to be 9,600 divided by 360, and that's going to be 2667 a day. So if you got 255 days at 2667 a day, then that's going to be 6,000. Yeah, 6,000. That makes sense. I was about to say what? $6,800. $6,800. But they have a slightly different number here. Did I type something in wrong? Let's see. 255 days. It is 9,600 divided by 360. That gives me 26.67. Oh, because I rounded. That's probably why. And then you got the 255 times 26.67. I got, come back here. What I got when I rounded was $6,800.85. But I rounded this 6.7. What happens if I don't round? 9,600 divided by 360 actually gives me 26.66666666. So if I do that times 255. Yeah, I got like 6,799. I don't know. We'll go with the closest answer. So we know this is the money because what I have noticed is Claude and AI does this sometimes. They just give you the closest, like which answer is closest. I don't know of any state exam that says, oh, when it comes to math, oh, just pick the closest. I don't know how AI came up with that, but I've noticed this a couple of times now with the math. That's what they do. So we'll go with it. My next time I make math through AI, I'll say, do not do that. Do not force the buyer to choose the closest answer. No, give us an exact answer. So let's see. This would be the buyer needs to owe. So if the buyer owes, that would be a buyer debit. And the seller needs to receive, that would be a seller credit for this amount of money. So it would be a seller credit and a buyer debit. I know it says $6,400, but let's just pretend like that says 68. You got seller credit of 6,400, but we need both sides. On a closing or statement, on a settlement statement, we need to see where the money comes from and where the money's going to. So it's not B, and the seller definitely doesn't owe that money. And yeah, the buyer does need to pay the $6,800, but the seller needs to receive it. So our answer is most definitely A. Again, AI needs to stop being silly and giving us wrong numbers, but our system of doing this is real. Hey, Daisy. Yes, it was A. It is A. Very good. All right, 61. Unless somebody has questions, but I think, like I said, Rosalinda, I'm glad you asked. If you only knew how many times I was asked stuff like that. So it does not hurt anybody to see it again. 61. A seller enters into a listing agreement that states if the property is not sold within 90 days, the listing shall automatically renew for an additional 90-day period. This clause is best described as, so it's a 90-day original listing, and if it doesn't sell, we go into another 90 days. So it's an automatic renewal. We see automatic renewal here. Is it A, an automatic renewal clause that is prohibited or restricted in many jurisdictions as it may be considered unfair to the seller? Well, that's true. I know in North Carolina it is restricted. So I'm not going to reduce that. That could be a possible good answer. I like that one. B, a requirement of all exclusive right to sell listings. No. You don't have to have an automatic renewal clause. No. Enforceable only if the broker provides additional consideration for the renewal period. Not necessarily. I mean, maybe the broker could have to if you write that in the contract, but that's not a standard thing. And then D, plus why is the broker paying? I don't know. A standard and enforceable provision in all jurisdictions. Our keyword being all. And I know that can't be right because I know this is illegal in North Carolina. So that takes my all right out the running. And so this is our best answer choice, 61, because it is definitely prohibited in some places. Right? Remember, we got the list of words that always change everything, like always, never, must, all. Like those words are so specific, they can change an answer. Would it be a different answer in a different state? Not necessarily. In this case, they said it is prohibited or restricted in many jurisdictions. Right? And that is true because we're talking about national questions, right? It is, when we talk about jurisdictions, we're talking about state, federal, county, city. Like this is just a really overreaching statement. No, you're good. Great question. 62. A property is sold at a foreclosure auction. The winning bid is $275,000 and the outstanding mortgage balance was $310. In a jurisdiction with a statutory redemption period, the former owner may. So to know this question, to answer this question, we got to know what a statutory redemption period is. And we know a statutory redemption period, statutory means law. That means somewhere there's a law where this borrower, the person who is being foreclosed upon, they can redeem themselves for a certain amount of days. How many days depends on the state. But that is the point of a statutory redemption law. Some places are strict foreclosure states where there is no law that says even after the auction, the original borrower can fix things. I mean, different states, different ways. So is it A, reclaim the property by paying the foreclosure sale price, $275, plus applicable costs within the statutory redemption period? Okay, I like that. All right. 72, or 62. Where did I get 72 from? I don't even know. B, never claim the property once no. That never messes everything up because we know it's the law that says that. C, reclaim the property only if they can prove the foreclosure was improper. Nope. The whole point of this law is the buyer can redeem themselves. And D, reclaim the property by paying the full $310 mortgage balance within the redemption period. So some people would say you have to, and in some states that period you do have to pay it off, but more than likely if it's a redemption period, I'm going to say our answer is going to be A, because you're going to pay back what you owe. These are the missed, wait a minute. How do I feel about this? Reclaim the property by paying the foreclosure sales price plus applicable costs within the statutory redemption period. But then they would still, okay, reclaim the property, blah, blah, blah. All right. This is one of those questions where, once again, sometimes what a bank will do is allow you to pay what well, they'll let you pay what is missed. Oof. I don't love A. I don't love D either. Reclaim the property by paying the full $310,000 mortgage balance within okay. D is always, not always, but if there's a statutory redemption period, D is going to be allowed. What I don't like about A is it says you're paying the foreclosure sales price, 275, and the applicable cost within the statutory redemption period. I know some states you can't do that. Oof, this one's hard. Mm, mm. And I'm going to show you all why. But what's that mean by applicable cost? So here's the thing, and let me get to it for you. Foreclosure. We jump to foreclosure. Guess I could have done it the other way. Oh, let's just do it this way. Let's see. It would be property. Nope, not there. Foreclosure. Types of foreclosure. Here we go. So, I know there's lots of writing on this, but I want to tell you why I'm like, oof, I don't know about this one. Let me clear this up for you. So, loan redemption. You know, when somebody doesn't pay, that borrower is in default. And in most states, I cannot say 100% in every state, but as far as I know, most states, you have your equitable right of redemption, which means before the auction sale, you can just pay what you missed, and then they put you back on your mortgage plan. After you pay what you missed and what you owe, just as far as your missed payments, they will let you continue the loan. And that is called a reinstatement officially. Mm. We also have statutory redemption, which is going to be after the sale. You can go in, and again, I've seen it both ways. Well, they'll let you catch up on the defaulted payments, or the borrower pays a total amount required to satisfy the loan balance completely. And I feel like neither answer really says either of those, because in one of them it said just pay the 275, and in the other one it didn't make it clear. So this would be one of these questions, because that's a lot of money. That would be 75. Yeah, that is a lot. This one I think is weird. I haven't really, there's only been a couple questions that I haven't really liked, but this one, boom, here we go. This one I'm going to highlight because I don't like either answer there. I mean, because here you're only paying the 275, and that seems a little weird. So I don't know. I don't know on that one. Hold on one second, guys. I'll call you back in like 15 minutes, Kristen. Bye. That was the sister. You all know how I feel about answering questions or answering family phone calls. Oof, this is a hard one, guys. Mm, mm. I would have said D, but they're telling us the answer is A. Yeah, I'm going to do some more research and come back on that one. Mm. All right, I follow that with some math. Oh, all right, here we go. During a closing, actually, I can't math today. We'll come back to that next week. Oh, more math. Jesus. Let's scroll to some not math. I'm mathed out. I can't do any more math. We'll come back to those. A property owner dedicates a strip of land along the front of their property to the county for road widening. This is an example of, oh, this is a nice one. This one's just a vocab one. Is it A, eminent domain, B, adverse possession, C, escheat, or D, dedication? Y'all knew this one. Dedication. Hey, we knew this one. Woo, woo. All right, 67. A deed states I grant to John Smith so long as the property is used for educational purposes. What type of estate does John hold? So we said, I grant to John Smith so long as the property is used for educational purposes. Is it a fee simple absolute, a life estate, a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent, or a fee simple determinable? Well, we know it's not a simple fee simple estate or a life estate. Right. And 67, here is where we're going to get picky. You see how it says so long as? This is giving you a duration of time. So, because it's saying it's for a period of time that just happens to be based on something else, our answer is fee simple determinable. So, whenever you see so long as, and let me go back to this for you so you can see it. Determinable. There we go. Just to show you all here, because this one gets a little weird. It's a fee simple determinable if it uses so long as, until, during, while. It's about a duration. Think fee simple determinable, the D here and the D here. However, if it is going to be words of condition, if it says but, provided that, on the condition that, then it's a fee simple conditional. So that makes our answer fee simple determinable because of these keywords. Nice job. Yep, D. D, very good. All right, 68. A developer plans a 50-home subdivision. The local planning board requires the developer to dedicate 3 acres for a public park and install sidewalks and connect to the municipal sewer system. These requirements are known as, is it A, non-conforming use allowances, B, spot zoning provisions, C, variances, or D, subdivision regulations and conditions of approval? Well, we know it's not variances because we just learned about variances and hardships. You're trying to get permission to do something different. And we know it's not B, spot zoning, because spot zoning is when you have like an odd man out. It's they change the zoning of one parcel of property for the benefit of not the public. So it's not that. And it's not A because non-conforming use allowances, remember, that's when something gets grandfathered in. And I know grandfathered isn't the best word, but this is where we know, hey, the use was correct. Then they changed the rules. Now the use doesn't match. And they're going to allow you to continue. And that's not what happened here. We do have some subdivision regulations, and they gave them conditions of approval. Hey, if you want to put in this subdivision, you must have the public park and the sidewalks and connect the city municipal sewer. So there we go. And let's do 69. A title insurance company discovers a forged deed in the chain of title after issuing a policy. Under the terms of a standard homeowner's title insurance policy, the company is most likely obligated to do what? Is it A, defend the insurer's title and pay any losses up to the policy amount for covered defects like forgery? I like that one. B, only cover defects discovered within a 5-year. Nope. Title insurance is while you own the property forever. Like as long as you own the property, your title insurance is there. C, require the insured to file a police report. Probably not. And then cancel the policy and refund the. No, that's what's the point of insurance? Obviously, our answer is A. Because it was something that was forged in the chain of title, but it was after they got the title insurance. This is exactly why you get title insurance. Oh, there's a forgery. Okay, you need to reimburse me. And with that, boys and girls, let's put a little note to myself. KE, go back and do math. What numbers were that? We got to go back to 63. And I'll put a message here. So we'll remember to come back and do that when we come back next, oh, I guess Sunday. So yes, I will be here Sunday, and then Easter Friday and or Good Friday and Easter Sunday. I might choose some other days to do stuff that week just because it is a holiday. So thank you so much, guys. I hope this helps as much as usual, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.